everybody, and welcome to my channel, Learn, Love, Learn, Do. In today's episode, we'll be going over activities that you can do with your preschoolers while home on spring break. These activities are not independent activities, and they are also not screen time activities. These are activities to give your young preschooler that face-to-face time that they may be needing with some fun activities so that you can step away for a moment after the activity and do something for yourself. As we know, preschoolers have varying ranges of independence, and they exert their independence at random and unpredictable times. But with these activities, you can put a little time in the bank, so to speak, so that you can take it back out for yourself later. If you invest this little bit of time with your preschooler, you'll be able to get it back out a little later and do something for yourself while they do go play independently. So let's get started. The first activity I have comes from this book called Tinker Lab, and it is compiled by Rochelle Dorley. I will put a link for it in the description box below. I highly recommend if you're ever needing inspiration for activities. But the activity I'm going to highlight is called Cloud Dough. It is essentially flour and oil mixed together, and it becomes this mass that can stick together and be molded and shaped, but then crumbled apart again to make something new. This activity can get a bit messy, but after I go over these activities, I'm going to go over how to set up so that cleanup is a breeze and the activity is fun. The next activity I have for you is Scoop and Pour Rice. Very official packaging and product here. This is made up of all the little leftover bits that come from your bag of rice. It's too small of an amount to cook, so what I do is I just throw it in our Scoop and Pour Rice for playing with later. There's brown rice in here, white rice, lentils, quinoa. There's even a few pinto beans in here. But we use this as an activity to scoop and pour. Scooping and pouring is a very engaging and fun preschool activity. Many preschoolers love to do scoop and pour. They'll do it in a sandbox, they'll do it in a bathtub, and now they can do it with rice, which is a totally different tactile experience for them. So when we get this rice out, we also get out measuring cups and spoons, big bowls, little bowls, muffin tins, cookie sheets, and we just scoop the rice up and put it in different containers. We even throw in a little imagination, pretend we're baking things, and then it's back to scooping and pouring. It's really what the kids want to do with it. The next activity that I'm going to show you is a button jar. So I just threw some craft buttons in an old peanut butter jar, and the extra buttons from our shirts went in here, and we use this for sorting. And sorting is a very important skill, being able to categorize things and describe them. So we do anything from describing our favorite button to actually making groups out of them. For a very young preschooler, you would want to give them prescribed categories like yellow and red. For an older kiddo, older preschool, kindergarten, they would get to sort these buttons in whatever category they want to make based on their observations. So they can have a group of buttons with 4 holes, a group of buttons with 2 holes, and then over here a group of buttons that are different shapes, not round, and then a group of buttons over here that have stripes, and a group of buttons over here that are red. So that older preschooler / kindergartner can really get into categorization, deciding their own groups that they want to make, and that final level of describing, almost defending the reason why a button is in this particular group. The next activity I have for you is bendaroos. I used these for many different things in my classroom. They are essentially yarn coated in wax, so they become bendable and sticky, so you can stick the pieces together and make creations. In my classroom, I used these for practicing our names, forming numbers, forming shapes, making letters. And it's such a different material that it really made that practice just a lot more fun. So I'll include a link for these down below. They also go by another name called Wiki Sticks. It's just a different brand, but it's the same idea. And my final activity for this video is shaving cream activities. So you just buy a can of shaving cream. This one's from Walmart. And we just spray a little blob on our work surface. It could be a counter, it could be the floor, wherever you're comfortable putting this on. And you just spread a thin layer over the surface. And as you write with your finger, the work surface underneath shows through the shaving cream. And so you can use this to practice your name, draw shapes, draw squiggles, follow my finger. Can you copy this shape? There's a lot of things you can do in the shaving cream. It's a really fun material to work with. And you can just decide, well, what is my kiddo interested in? What are they working on? That sort of thing. And this is an activity that cleans up itself. After you're done with it, you just get a wet washcloth and wipe it up, and it's all cleaned up. And where you were working smells amazing the rest of the day. And I almost forgot, I'll include a link to my video from last week up there in the cards for more activities you can do with your preschooler. They would certainly fit in nicely with these ones I'm mentioning today for ways to get a little time back for yourself after you've put a little time in with your preschooler. Okay, so we've gone over some fun activities that you can do with your preschooler to kind of put some time in the bank with them, to give them that face-to-face time that they're wanting from you throughout the day, so that you can pull some of that time out and do something for yourself. Because like I said, preschoolers have varying ranges of independence, but they are certainly not independent all day long, like for an entire work day. So these activities would be good to keep kind of in your back pocket for when you know you're going to need a little bit of time later in the day. You can do an activity together, and then your preschooler could play independently after that while you do your you time thing. But what I'd like to talk about next is how to set up activities like this, especially the messy ones like scoop and pour rice or cloud dough. How do you set up these activities so that they're fun and the cleanup is very easy and they're just kind of enjoyable for you? And you want to do all of this before you even get the material out of the bag. They can see it here and they're very excited and interested. Their interest will probably be so high that they're just hanging on your every word and agreeing with everything you say just so they can get to what's in that bag. So you really want to be clear with them and get that buy-in, like, yes, I will clean up. Yes, I will keep this material on my play mat. So what I like to do with these activities is I like to define a boundary for the material, explain how they are to use the material and how they are not to use the material, and explain to them what cleanup time will be like so that they can join in that cleanup time when the activity is done, coming to an end. So to define the boundary for these materials, let's use scoop and pour rice. You can get an old beach towel, a shower curtain liner, an old tablecloth, and you can turn it into your playtime mat and get it out when you're going to do these messy activities. And so the material that you use, in our example, the play rice, has to stay within that tablecloth, shower curtain, beach towel boundary. And the reason we want it to stay within that boundary is so we have the most of that material that we can absolutely keep for the play, and it doesn't make a mess outside of the boundary and we have to spend all our time cleaning up rice or cloud dough or Play-Doh or whatever. So that's how you define a boundary. The next thing I would do is explain to them how they are supposed to use the material. So play rice is for scooping and pouring and using your imagination. It is not for throwing, spreading on the floor, or putting in your mouth. And when it's time to clean up, we need to put all of the rice back in the bowl and get all of our spoons and cups and bowls gathered to go in the sink. And then we're gonna pour the rice back in the bag. These are my words that I would use to explain how we're gonna clean up. You're gonna explain it the way makes sense to you. But those are pretty much the three main things you wanna do to set up these messy activities so that they are fun and so they're low stress and so you can just enjoy each other. So the main idea of these activities is not to have your preschooler doing something independently by themselves or putting them in front of a screen. Those definitely have their times and their places, especially when you have something you really need to be able to focus on. These activities are more for giving them that face-to-face time, giving them some of that interaction they crave throughout the day so that when the activity is done, they've kind of refilled their little cup or charged their little batteries so they can go off and play for a minute by themselves and think about that material they just got to use so that you can then step away and have a few minutes to do whatever your heart desires. So when we do these hands-on activities, make sure to set clear boundaries, explain the material, and then clean up together, and that can kind of keep the interest high, keep the stress low, and just allow you and your preschooler to enjoy each other. Okay everyone, thanks for joining me today. If you liked this video, if it helped you, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or are just needing advice, leave it down below in the comments and I will make sure to get back to you. Subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this and hit that little bell if you'd like to be notified when I release those videos. And thanks again for joining me on my channel, Learn, Love, Learn, Do, where we love to learn and learn to do.